Well, Suzanne has asked me many times to talk, since she knows I am writing the book and everything. And I always told her, well, when a book is finished.
Yeah.
Well, the book is finished, the book is published, and here I am. Anyway, first of all, I would like to, first of all, I don't really feel that I have a lot to tell you, because I feel you have been with me all along this journey. So you know where I have been and the evolution and everything. So it's like, well, I don't think I can tell them anything new. But anyway, I may fill some gaps, and at the end we will have some questions, questions and answers. So wherever comes up, I can fill the gaps that you may have. And first of all, I would like to talk about how it came for me to write the book. As most of you know, I am from Spain. And I grew up listening to this saying: before you die, you have to do 3 things. You have to have a child, you have to write a book, and you have to plant a tree. That is in my culture, or every kid in Spain grows up listening to that. Well, I was adamant I was not going to do any of the 3 things. And I was pretty good for 60 years following that. So anyway, that is how, all it started, that I was not going to write a book, have a child, or plant a tree. And then, as I grew up, you talk to people, and I always hear, even before I moved to this country 30 years ago, I always hear, oh, you have to write your story. You have such an interesting life, you have to write your story. Well, it came through one ear and went out through the other ear. That was not in my plans. So it's like I did not even care what they said. That's how I spent a lot of time. Then I developed cancer, and it came a time that I thought that I just couldn't go through it alone. I don't have any family, I don't have close friends. So I started going counseling. And then that got me to take Kabbalah classes, start renew my metaphysical studies, and then I met Pamela. And then as I was doing my therapies and going through cancer, I continue hearing, you have to tell your story. You cannot remain silent with what you are doing. You have to tell your story. The same thing. I was not going to do it. It's something I never thought about it, and I just didn't care what the people said. It's like it didn't ring a bell with me. So that went on for quite a bit. And Pamela used to tell me, well, I don't think you can remain silent. You have to tell this story. Well, that was not in my plans. And a year ago, last May, June, at the end of May or June, I came back from Spain, and Pamela had a writing class, just a 1-day seminar writing class. And I said, Pamela, I have done so many new things with cancer, I am going to come to your writing seminar. She said, oh, great, I'm so glad that you are coming. In the bottom of my heart, I knew that I was going to the seminar for 2 reasons. One, to demonstrate Pamela that I cannot write a book. So she will not bug me anymore about writing a book or telling my story. And second of all, I wanted to demonstrate that to myself. I am right. I don't have to write this. I am right. Okay? So that's how I went to the seminar at 10 o'clock in the morning. So when I arrived to the seminar, the seminar started this way. Pamela says, well, I am going to pass this bowl. It was like a big salad bowl full of words. I'm going to pass it around, and each of you take a handful of words. And then I am going to give you a prompt, and you just write whatever, but you have to use the words. You have to use every single word that you get. Fine. I don't know what I was going to write, but that's okay. The words will tell me what to write. So she passed the bowl. I got my handful of words, and the prompt was, this is the story of a man who, or this is the story of a woman who. Fine. I put all the words, I displayed all the words in front of me, and every word applied to myself. I just couldn't write about anyone else but me. Okay, so I start writing. about myself. And this exercise went on like 4 times. She gave us different prompts, like to follow the story, and a handful of words, and the story kept repeating. I just kept the words that applied to me, so I had to continue writing about myself. Okay, when the exercise finished, what I didn't know is that we have to stand up and read what we have written. That was another story. I was not willing to share my story with 10, 12 strangers in the room. So I resisted all I wanted until the end. So I was the last one to get up. I got my story, never looked up, just read all what I have written, and closed my book. When I finished reading the story, and I look, half of the people were with Kleenex in their hands, wiping their tears. And the other half were really emotional. So I was surprised to see that reaction. And then Pamela says, well, this is the woman that says that she cannot write. And what she has written, she has all us in, tears and emotional. She says also, as she has cancer, she feels that she needs to be healed and that she is the healee and needs healing. What she does not realize is that she is the healer, because her words will heal us. To listen to her words, it will heal us. Right in that moment is when I made the decision to write the book. Because right in that moment, I just felt that I couldn't keep silence. If my words were going to heal somebody else, I didn't have the right not to write them. So in that moment, I decided to write my book. I went home after the seminar, and then the next day I went to Pamela, and Pamela is a writer. I mean, she has like 11 or 12 books published, and she publishes books 500 pages, 800 pages, the last one she has published. She's a writer. So I said, Pamela, I have decided I'm going to write a book, but I cannot write it without your help. English is not even my mother language, so please, are you going to help me? She says, definitely, I will help you. So that is how it started, the story of my book. Then I started writing, and the first day I go to Pamela, because the agreement is that I was going to write and read the book to her. So I wrote, and I went to her, and I could read to her in loud voice 10 pages in 1 hour. So I said, Pamela, okay, my commitment is that I am going to write 10 pages a week, because when I come to see you, I can read the 10 pages in 1 hour. So that was my commitment, and I kept it. And in 3 months, my book was written. So after the 3 months, we have to start correcting my book. Because after the 3 months, well, we found somebody to correct the grammar, which is the same thing. Pamela says, I don't want to spend my time correcting the grammar. We have to find somebody to do it. I said, yeah, I don't know. The next day, I had lunch with a friend. I said, well, right now, how's your book? I said, fine, but now we need somebody to correct the grammar because Pamela is not going to do it, it's to waste her time. She said, well, that's what I do. I correct the grammar. That's what I correct the grammar for all the pamphlets in my company. That's what I do for my company. I said, I correct your book. Sure enough. So she corrected the grammar, and then after, I sat with Pamela, and it was like taking a private writing classes. Read this paragraph. Pamela told me you have to, write more sentences about this or the other. And went home with my homework, rewrite each paragraph, a few times, and that's how the book was written at the end. So that was the process of writing the book, but finally I did it. Okay. This book is a memoir about my life, explaining what brought me to have cancer in the first place and how I dealt with it. I was born with a heart defect that marked all my life. I spent my childhood sick and alone because I could not run or exercise or play with any other children. Also, I had a difficult mother. Her life view was conflicted with mine, it was totally different, and we never agreed. So the life at home and the relationship with my mother was always a problem. And these two events, being sick from the day I was born, and the difficult relationship with my mother, that really marked all my childhood and all my life. Now I want to read about an event that happened during my childhood and really marked my life. I spent all my summers in my grandmother's village. My uncle was a shepherd there. Sheep have their lambs in winter, and normally these lambs were sold. It was a tradition that one special lamb would be chosen to be killed at the village festivities on the Saint's Day. This lamb would provide a special celebratory meal. It was the only time of the year the people of the village ate lamb. All the cities and villages in Spain have a patron saint that they celebrate on that Saint's Day. They celebrate with religious ceremonies, such as masses and processions, where they carry the saint through the main streets of the village. There is a special food, there are bullfights. The celebration and dancing last for 2 or 3 days, and sometimes even longer, depending on the importance of the town. The saint of my grandmother's village was the Virgin of Negrijan. Her saint day was September 8th. I was really happy to be with the same lamb all the summer. He became my closest friend. I took my naps with him in the back room instead of in the bed. We became absolutely inseparable. I adored him and he adored me. We had a special connection. One day, my grandmother, aunt, and uncle sent me to play at a friend's house at the other end of the village. When I came back to my grandmother's home, I found my lamb hanging from the ceiling in the back room. My lamb was dead. They had slit his throat. The day I found my lamb dead, I decided not to eat meat for the rest of my life. That day, because I refused to eat my lamb, my grandmother cooked French fries and fried eggs for me. She did so every year thereafter during the village festivities. And still today, French fries and fried eggs is my favorite food. As I grew older, my search for a spiritual life took me to a convent, where I was a cloister nun for 2 years. It was the order of the Descalcer Carmelites in Spain. Then, finally, when I was 27, the doctors in Spain were able to tell me the name of my illness. So they told me, well, this is what you have, this is your heart problem, but we cannot do anything for you. You have to go to Paris, Amsterdam, or the United States. Those are the only places that they can operate on you. We cannot do anything but monitor it. So each time you have an episode, you go to the nearest hospital, to the emergency room, because you can die anytime. And it's a miracle that at 27 you are still alive. We just cannot believe it. And then we monitor you, because if you passed away, we just resuscitate you in the moment because you are in the proper place. So I started then my peregrination, as I call it, through the emergency rooms of all the hospitals in Madrid. So that was my life. And finally, I said, well, you know, I have friends in the United States. I speak English. I don't speak Dutch. I don't speak French. I am going to the United States for the summer and find out what can I do about this. And that's how I came here to Menlo Park, because my friend was living in Menlo Park at the time, a friend I had. So she made an appointment at Stanford, and the doctor offered to do free surgery for me. I was the number 6 operated at Stanford from this illness. And then, through another series of circumstances in Washington, D.C., I got somebody to pay for the hospital. It was a grant. And I came here and had my open heart surgery at Stanford a few months later. Well, that surgery corrected one problem, but uncovered another one. I have a hole in my heart, which I still have today. And that also is one of the reasons why I went around the bush with my cancer treatment. Anyway, 1 year later is when I met my husband, who will be my husband in Spain, and brought me here. And exactly last month is 30 years since I got married and I am living in this country. Then, as Suzanne told, I met Suzanne after I became a widow. I started going to seminars. I had more time, so let's go to follow David Wilcock all we can. And that's where I met Suzanne. And at that time, when I started coming to CHN, is when they were starting these recall healing classes. So definitely I take the class. So I came to the recall healing classes, and I met Joubert Renaud. Anyway, so now I would like to read a little part of my book, a little page, one page about recall healing, because really this book is about recall healing mainly. And that's why I got Joubert to write the introduction for me. And also, the book is going to be translated in Polish and Russian.
Oh, because it's Joubert. Right?
Because Joubert. So anyway, in the theory of recall healing, the first step towards healing is to identify the emotional trauma that caused the disease. If you do not recognize and heal the emotional cause of the disease, no matter how much physical treatment you undergo, you could possibly be cured, but you will never be healed. This means we must look at illness in a different way, not just cancer, but all illness. To be cured is to have no more physical symptoms of the illness. You are cured when the tests come back clear and the doctors tell you they cannot find any trace of the illness in your body anymore. In the case of cancer, to be cured might imply not to die of the disease. To be healed goes beyond that. To be healed is to have dealt with the cause of the illness at the emotional and even the spiritual level, and to have healed whatever issue or issues brought you to have the illness in the first place. It is to have learned your lesson. It means you have reached a higher level of consciousness at the other end. This is why it is possible that you can be healed on your deathbed. Recall healing is a method of self-healing consistent of the practices of realizing it, expressing it, and releasing it. Realizing it means discovering the cause. Sometimes we can become aware of the cause by ourselves, although most of the time the cause of illness is stored in our subconscious mind and we need the help of someone else, such as a therapist or a spiritual practitioner, to discover it. Expressing it means owning it. Sometimes this means making the cause publicly known, not necessarily in a book like I am doing, but to your family, to whomever is involved, or to the society you live in. Going public changes the energy pattern of the causal factors, which helps healing happen on a broader level than just the personal. Releasing it means letting it go out of our system. To do this, people engage in practices such as healing ceremonies, writing letters to people involved in the cause, and practicing forgiveness. Each of us is different, and therefore there is no formula that fits all. Each one, with the help of a teacher, must find his or her own way. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was able to go to my books in recall healing and find exactly the reason of my illness. Just this fact put me on the path of the healing I took. I decided to heal myself, hoping that the cure would come with it. Although I rejected some traditional treatments, I never went totally outside the allopathic path. I still have conventional checkups and monitor my tumor. I chose to treat my cancer this way unknowingly at that time, because I did a lot of physical treatment too, not only, the spiritual treatment or the emotional one. And really now, looking from the future of that time, I know why. If I would have gone with the conventional path, in 3 months my cancer would have been over. That was it. I would have had a lumpectomy, I would have had radiotherapy, and you are clear, go home. Well, I wouldn't have had time to heal. It was too short. But I took the long route. And that really put me in charge of my healing in every aspect. So now I see clear why the circumstances were that way that took me in this direction. I never expected that this path was going to provide me with the immense insight that was going to change my life. I remember one day being in my kitchen hooked to an IV, and I have a friend who reads the tarot cards for us all the time. And she reads the tarot cards, she tells whatever, I don't care, more or less, I don't pay too much attention. Well, I forgot all about this reading, but that day I was hooked up to an IV in my kitchen, and suddenly it comes the reading that she did 3 years before. Not 3 years, 2 years before, something like that, or 3, I don't know, when Bob died. And she told me, unless you dedicate yourself to metaphysics, you will get sick. I forgot that. If you don't dedicate yourself to metaphysics, you will get sick. I didn't pay attention to that card that she read for me. But that day in the kitchen, I was totally aware. It just came like a flash. Well, in spite of, having cancer, going through therapies and everything, I just decided to go back to metaphysics. That's what I had to do. And sure enough, the teacher doesn't show up until the student is ready. I was living in Moss Beach when Pamela moved to Moss Beach. She moved to Moss Beach 1 year before I did. I never found her. When Bob died, when my husband died, I was looking for a Kabbalah teacher because I wanted to study Kabbalah. Well, all the Kabbalah teachers I found was across the bay and in this place so far away. I was not going to do that. Well, just then I find Pamela. I have the Kabbalah teacher 10 minutes from my home. I was ready. So I started studying Kabbalah. And these metaphysical studies helped me to look deep into my soul. Little by little, the anger, the frustration, and the depression left me, while I was in a quest to find meaning and purpose to my life. And now I want to read a little bit about healing. One night, as I was driving home from Kabbalah class, that is another Kabbalah class that I took also, and this was in 280, contemplating the stars and the full moon, the same clarity I was seeing in the sky suddenly invaded the feelings of my heart. My heart opened like the sky and I burst into tears. Suddenly, I had a feeling of clarity I had never felt before. I realized that in the end, my mother had died, my husband had died, the ship was gone, and the little girl with the broken heart was no longer. It was all gone. That was all in the past. Now I could begin a new life. I found myself talking to my mother. I asked her to help me on my new road. Mamá, ayúdame. Mom, help me. In that very same moment, the moment I asked my mother for help, I had the realization that all the contradictions in my life and the illnesses were resolved. How could this be? I realized in that moment on the cellular level, it is not what happens to us that initiates illness in our lives, but rather, illness is caused by how we react to what happens. How we react makes us sick, and furthermore, how we react also heals us. It was time for all my ordeals to end. I had found life and now I wanted to live. Ironically, I realized that cancer is what kept me alive while I was searching for life. I was overcome with love. I love life. I love life immensely. Suddenly, I loved all the relations and the whole of the world. By the time I arrived home that night, I was healed. I knew I was healed deep down inside. I arrived home, the place I started. I was where I began, and yet I was changed. I had reached my destination, my source. In writing my story, I was compelled to remember deeply. Everything came to the surface. It came to the surface in revelations and tears. I cried, understood, and released. Cried, understood, and released. I released the energy of over 60 years. When you can hold the whole story, I now understood, you can hold all the contradictions and see that every single thing is perfect. You are healed. That is what it means to be healed. Finally, I was ripe enough to write this book. And this was a year ago, last June, as I have said. Yes, I was too old to have a child. I would never plant a tree. I do not have a green thumb, and I can hardly grow a small plant that I buy in the supermarket. I'm lucky if I don't kill it. But I could write a book. That I could do. Well, the universe proved me wrong. The moment I decided to break my pattern and demonstrate my reconciliation with life, leaving a book behind me, not only the universe put in my path the right persons to help me with this project, but it also gave me a child and a tree. This is what my book is all about. And before I finish, I would like to talk about the cover of the book. As you see, there is a tiger. During my healing, I went to see The Life of Pi. And this movie had a big influence in me. I write in the book about this. The tiger is the cancer. And the relationship between Pi and the tiger was exactly the relationship I was having with my cancer. Alone in the boat, in the vast ocean, and as the relationship of Pi, if you have seen the movie, changes with the tiger, it was exactly the change I was having in my relationship with the cancer. I may read a little bit about the tiger. Let's see. I am still on a boat with my cancer, but there has been a big shift. Being in the company of the tiger has changed me. The tiger is still looking into my eyes, but now we understand each other. I am no longer afraid. Life no longer scares me, nor does death. Here is what I have learned. Not only am I not going to die of living, like that little girl with a hurting heart, but I will live in brilliant aliveness, even if we are all dying every day. Now I sit on the boat, healed, but still facing the tiger. I still have a lump in my breast. I might have surgery to remove it. I do not know. I do not know what the surgeon might find. I have no way of knowing what the future will bring. None of us do. But I have learned something. As I have faced the tiger, my cancer, my teacher, my healer, he taught me how to come alive. He taught me how to recognize what was killing me. He taught me how to release the cause of the illness. And finally, he taught me how to enter the dance of life. It may seem ironic that the dance would begin with a tiger. He who might destroy me showed me the way to become whole. On top of the word cancer, it is a sunrise in the Mediterranean Sea. It happens that I have a friend who lives in Cyprus, and almost every night I receive a picture that she takes every morning of the sun rising from her window. It tells me it's time to go to bed. Anyway, this is the burst of light that comes to my life every day. Now, we all have our own stories and we all have our own ailments. I just hope that my book can help others to reconsider the reason for them and to do their own healing. What you might find it might be incredible. So if there are any questions, I would answer them, and this is all about my book.
Your life.
Yeah.
And your whole persona has changed since I've known you.
I know everybody tells me about that. I cannot see myself change, but of course the people do. Yeah.
I know that you have a traditional doctor that I believe it was at Kaiser, is that right?
Yeah.
Because I finished it last night.
Yeah.
So what does this doctor think about what you've done? Does he?
Well, according to Kaiser, I haven't treated my cancer. And the oncologist, I only have gone to the oncologist once in Kaiser, and he explained how I was going to die because I am not treating my cancer. Yeah.
So you still have the lump, but you're cancer free, and how do you know?
Well, I am not. I don't know whether I am cancer free. The other day I had a blood test done, and I am cancer free. The numbers are the same as a person without cancer, but I still have a lump in my breast.
Maybe it's bionic.
So there are blood markers of blood.
Oh, I never had. I have never. My blood, my cancer markers have been always clear. I have
Even
never
at
had
the very
cancer
beginning?
according to the cancer markers.
Ah,
According to the cancer markers,
Even
I
at
have
the
never had
beginning?
cancer. Huh?
Even at the beginning.
Even at the beginning, even when I was diagnosed.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, since the beginning of my illness, since the diagnosis, I am dealing with a dilemma. Some tests tell me that I have cancer, and some tests, they tell me I don't. And I am always with this dilemma. And I still am. The other day I went to have this test. You know, last March, I was told that my cancer was growing. I had an ultrasound and a mammogram, because finally I found an apparatus that doesn't squeeze the breast. And the doctor told me that she couldn't tell me exactly the measure of the bump unless I had a mammogram. So I agreed to a mammogram because I needed to know where I was. Well, they told me that the cancer was growing. But according to allopathic medicine, they are not worried. Oh, your cancer is growing, but it's so little. It's so little. Because according to the cancer I was diagnosed, probably this should grow at another rhythm that is not growing.
Yeah.
So that is why they are not worried at all. But I said, you know, you are telling me this is 2 centimeters. When I was diagnosed, it was 1 centimeter. So it is double. So I was alarmed. I said, well, it is double size, you know.
Still.
But they were not worried. So we don't know whether the cancer is encapsulated, and that is why the blood test and even a PET scan that I had 1.5 years ago, it was clear. It detected other tumors that I have in my body, benign, so I was very happy because I knew it was my PET scan. Because when I said thorax, all clear, I said, well, they may have made a mistake. This is not me. But when I continue reading and they saw all my other tumors that I have, oh yeah, that is my PET scan. Well, it was clear. They cannot detect the tumor in my breast. But it never went away, the lump. So it's like I am I do a lot of alternative treatments, and I do vitamin C IVs in regular basis. Normally, when I go to have my vitamin C IV, I have a pulling in my breast. I feel something. And the doctors tell me, well, the cancer cells are dying with the vitamin C. That is why you feel the pulling when you have the vitamin C IV. So it's like it's a contradiction, and I am living with that contradiction all the time.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I'm curious, how come that you continue to live with this contradiction but not decide to remove your breast or that part of the tumor?
Well, I don't know, a series of things. First of all, I had CHN insurance. I am turning 65 next month. So at least I am free. I got another insurance, and now I can shop for a surgeon, which I couldn't do before, because of course I always have had a pre-existing condition. So it was hard for me to find insurance. The 30 years I have lived in this country, I found it like my husband renewed his architectural license without working as an architect anymore, and I got insurance as his employee. That's how I was able to get Kaiser, and thank God I did it. But anyway, so it's like my relationship with the Kaiser people was so bad that I didn't want to have surgery. I didn't want to put myself in the hands of a surgeon that didn't agree with what I was doing. The energy was bad. I don't want that man or woman to open me up. So that prevented me to have surgery. And then it's a little bit like the life of Pi. I was getting used to live with the tiger. And I was experimenting my relationship with the tiger. And I was finding out what this relationship is going to be and what is going to take me. So it was a mixture of things.
Manuela, may I just say something about some of the complementary medicine clinics actually recommend that people not cut too soon. So I think that's important, is because you did a lot of complementary medical work, and they tell you not to do what the standard doctors do, and if they, even in biopsies, they can spread the cancer if they cut too soon. So it's really a really complicated situation.
It's better to have the surgery after you have done a lot of therapies, that chances are is encapsulated or like a lump or dead cells. Because many times, another theory that I have been told is like, well, in the apparatus they know the bump is bigger. When the cells are alive, the cells have a proper configuration. When the cells are dead, they don't have a configuration, and therefore it looks bigger. Because they are dead cells, and that is why. But in the machine, they only see that the lump is bigger.
Yes.
But that is a possibility.
Okay.
Sylvia has a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I first wanted to say congratulations. I really admire your courage and how brave you've been. I think you're going to set an example for many, and it's great. The one question that I have myself is, why do you always speak of it as my cancer, my tumor? So reinforcing every time the owning of that was very obvious during your talk. And
I have a section in my book talking about
you
that.
explain it. Okay.
I explain why my cancer, it has always been my cancer. It has never been the cancer.
Okay.
And I think one of the reasons is because I knew so much from day one. I knew what caused my cancer from day one. So it's like cancer was something that didn't land in my lap, and I didn't know where it came from. I knew exactly where it came from. So it belonged to me. I created it. That is why I always call it my cancer, and that is why it's very difficult for me to disengage. I know that the vocabulary is so important.
Well, let's say at least for the fact that each one of our 50 trillion cells is co-listening to what we're seeing. Every word we say is being recorded and registered with every one of our cells. So if your true intention at the back of your mind was to let go of that cancer, there would be no need to own it. And so that's why my question, why
Well, my intention from the beginning was not to let go.
Okay.
My intention was to heal,
I see.
not to cure.
Yeah.
I just was hoping that the cure would come with it.
Okay.
But my intention was to heal it, not to cure it. I just was hoping the cure would come with it. So I just took a different approach.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the tiger is there in the boat. I have to live with it, like Pi was living with it.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way I learn, if I am in the boat with the tiger. And when the time comes, the tiger might go away, like in the life of Pi.
Very brave.
But you know, I have a section of the book talking about this. But I knew so much about my cancer, it was not something strange that came to me.
Yeah.
I knew what it was. So it was part of me.
Is that because of recall healing?
Yes, because of recall healing. I was lucky enough that I took the courses before. So that is when this happened. And you know, everything was because, I mean, cancer is very efficient. I was diagnosed the 23rd of September and my surgery was scheduled for the 16th of October. I mean, really efficient. In 3 weeks, I have the cancer out. Of course, I cancel everything and I walk away. But, you know, they wanted to do radiation in my left breast.
Yeah.
Well, my heart is the weakest part of my body.
Yeah.
I have a hole there.
Yeah.
When my husband died, as I was under a lot of stress, I fainted in my house because I was losing 1/3 of the heartbeats that one should have. And the doctor says, well, that's too much. That's why you fainted. So each time I am under stress, is my heart that has, you know, the problem.
Yeah.
So I say, I'm sorry, you are not going to give radiotherapy to my left breast because my heart is right there, radiotherapy is out. And they said, well, you have to have a mastectomy. And I said, well, you are telling me that this is 1 centimeter? It doesn't make sense to have a mastectomy for 1 centimeter. And I just walk out. I mean, I only was arguing with the doctor all the time. But you know, I think everything happens for a reason. If I wouldn't have had the Kaiser insurance, if I would have been able to shop for a surgeon at that time, somebody that agreed with me, that says, well, we do the lumpectomy, but you don't have to do radiation, or whatever, I would have never gone this way.
Yeah.
I would have never healed.
Yeah.
I would have never been able to go into my life, even since from before birth, and write the book. I would have never done it. You know, in 3 months, I'll tell me you are fine, go home, and okay, I continue with my life.
Right.
I have had cancer.
But you wouldn't be healed.
Yeah.
Who is Pamela? What's her other name? And-
Pamela Eakins.
Yes. Can you tell us where she is and what she does?
Well, she's, I would say, like my mentor, my spiritual director, the person who helped me with the book. She has really the metaphysical, you know, school of the West. Her specialty is Kabbalah. Her mother is a painter, and her mother painted the Tarot of the Spirit.
Oh, yes.
And she wrote the book, The Tarot of the Spirit. The mother did the cards, the painting, and she did the writing. And she has been teaching tarot for 30 years. And she teaches also writing seminars, she teaches tarot. And it happens that she lives 10 minutes from my house. I started studying Kabbalah with her 2.5 years ago. And she's the one that helped me with the book. I mean, she's the one that, you know, I'm not too computer wise. If I would have had to go to Amazon to create a space, download the program, publish the book, it would have been a big mess for me. I mean, it's too much. But, you know, she says, when the book was done, I gave her the book. I gave her the little USB. She put it in her computer. She uploaded to the Create Space all the program. And then we pass it back to my computer. And the book was published. You know, she helped me out. And of course, she helped me with the writing. I think in the book there are 3 words that they are not mine. Because when we were going through the book, she respected me, and because she wanted to keep my voice. But in 3 occasions, I said, Pamela, I would have never said that word. And she says, I know, but that is the word that expresses exactly what you want to express, because I know that. So you learn this word. And she told me that 3 times. So there are 3 words in the book that I would have never written from my heart. But they are the right word to express what I wanted, and I had to learn that word. So that's who Pamela is. Yeah.
Tarot, what did she keep saying?
How do you feel or express the difference between heal and cure?
Curing is at the physical level. Many people are cured. I mean, many people, not from cancer, but from many things, they go to the doctor and they had the surgery or they take the pill and they are cured and they never think why I am sick. They never, think about why I am sick or what else have I to do different or what I was doing wrong that I developed this problem. It's like, those people are cured. And the people who are healed is the people who really evaluates the illness. I mean, why I got this, why I developed this, what do I have to learn from this? Because nothing happens by chance. Even the car accident it looks like it's by chance, but it's not by chance. It's something we have to learn from it. And then that is the healing. That is why many people die healed. And also another thing really I would like to do with my book is to change the consciousness about cancer. Even as the people talk, it's like, oh, that is a cancer. When they talk about, even David Wilcock in the synchronicity, he has that expression. And really I would like to change that because what we are doing is really fomenting this negativity around something that we shouldn't. If you die from a heart attack, it's normal. If you die from cancer, it's a cancer. Because that is what, in a way, the pharmaceutical industry is what has put, because it's the biggest business. It's more business, the cancer, than the heart attack. So therefore, that is the energy they have put in it. And really, I would like to change it. Well, if you have to die of cancer, that's fine. The same as you die of a heart attack or you die of something else. There is nothing different. Maybe worse death, more suffering, many times caused by the therapies.
Right.
If you wouldn't do the therapies, probably you would have a better death, even with cancer. But that is what I really would like to change the morphic field around cancer that this society have. And then if we change the morphic field about that, the pharmaceutical industry will have to put up with that because it will not have the profits that it has now because of cancer. So really that is another aspect that I would like, and really when you look at illness in a different way, more in a spiritual way than in a physical way, that is what you come up with. I know you had a question.
Manuela, I just wanted to ask, did you ever have a biopsy?
Yes, I did.
You did?
When I was diagnosed, that is why I had cancer.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't take enough cells. I don't know what happens. They were never able to tell me the stage of my cancer. Because of another numbers in the biopsy, the doctors have gathered it was a stage 1 or a stage 2. But we never knew because they didn't get enough information. Yeah, I had a biopsy. That's when I was diagnosed because of a biopsy.
Okay.
I also know I had cancer 3 years before I was diagnosed.
You do?
Yes, I do know.
How?
Well, because 3 years before I was diagnosed, I went to have a mammogram, and the mammogram was not right. I had to go back for a second one. Well, the cancer was showing up. But as I was very little, they disregard. In the second mammogram, I said, I'll go home. Then is when explode all the ship issue. That's, some of you know about that. Well, I was in full fight. When you are in full fight, the illness doesn't show up. That's what we learn in recall healing. So the second year,
The illness doesn't show up if you're
in full fight, in fight mode. So the second year, I went to have my biopsy. My mammogram, it was clear. Why it was clear? Because I was in full fight with the ship. Nothing. The third year, in February, a series of circumstances happened that they are in the book. I let go of the ship. All my meditations was about forgiveness, and moving on, forgive everybody, move on. I go in September, I have cancer. It is the pattern that I was taught in recall healing. So that's why I had cancer 3 years before I was diagnosed.
Yeah, I mean, recall healing is an amazing Amazing thing.
We have such wonderful energy. It's great.
Right.
I applaud you because I'm going through something similar, and I applaud you how you can deal with the medical system, especially with all the dichotomy that was going on. I just can't even imagine how you dealt with that.
Well, it was not easy, and I have had my hard moments, really, my hard moments. Not easy, but you know, I didn't have a choice. Also,
No, but you fought, is what I
Yeah.
You fought that,
yeah.
that they know the right thing.
Well,
And you did other forms of therapy.
yeah, I have done a lot of therapies. It's not that I disregarded and I said, well, I just do, you know, the spiritual healing, you know, recall healing, emotional healing. I mean, he was driving until the day he died and independent. I never, you know, I married an old man. Everybody told me, oh my God, you are marrying such an old man. You are going to spend your life as a nurse. Well, I had a lot of stress with the old man. But the stress was because he was 90 and he thought he was 50. That was the stress. And then he calls me, I am in Sacramento, I will be late for dinner. I said, Bob, you know I don't let you drive so far. Why didn't you tell me? She says, that's why I didn't tell you. If I tell you that I am coming to Sacramento, you don't let me. So that's why I'm in Sacramento, I will be late for dinner. Okay, so that was the stress I had with the old man. Not because he was old. I never had to do anything from him. He died in 12 hours. Never had to care for him. He was never bedridden, nothing. And, you know, and I remember when Bush put this thing of the drug, you know, the drugs, this Plan D in Medicare.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I am a 6 in the Enneagram, so it's like I have to have everything controlled. I said, Bob, we better get into this plan because at your age, we don't know which medicines you may need. We better get. She says, I'm not getting into that plan. No matter what, I am not going to take any prescription medications. So I'm not getting into that plan. Serve him well. He never needed.
He was a teacher for you.
Yeah. So that is why really I was familiar with going around the bush because he did it. And for him it worked.
And how did he deal with the 3, he was supposed to have 3 bypasses?
Yeah, he never had the 3 bypass. Well, he went to the British Longevity Center. I mean, he had a heart attack. He needed the 3 bypasses. He told the doctors, I will come back for the 3 bypasses, don't worry. And instead of that, 1 month later, he was in Los Angeles, in the British Longevity Center in Santa Monica, and he spent there 1 month. So he learned to cook, and he learned to exercise, and he learned everything. And that's his life was. So when I married him, they said, I don't know how you can marry this man, the people told me, because with his diet, his lifestyle. I said, well, no problem. I have never eaten meat in all my life. So for me, not to eat meat is normal, you know. And he didn't eat any dairy products. I mean, in fact, I didn't buy olive oil, being from Spain, until he was 80. When he was 82, we went to Disneyland with some friends. And I said, Bob, you are 82. You have had a heart attack already, and he lost 1/3 of his heart when that happened. So I said, why don't you get a wheelchair? Oh, I'm not getting a wheelchair. We spent all the day in Disneyland, you know, doing all the things. He had a heart attack that night. So, okay, the second heart attack, maybe now he has to have the bypass. But of course, then is when we found the San Francisco preventive medicine, and he had chelation, and he never needed the bypass, and he lived 12 years more after that heart attack, after the second heart attack. And the second heart attack, we know why he had it, because he did what he shouldn't be doing at 82, you know. So anyway, so that is why, for me, it's like, it was normal, you know, and I cook with white wine all the time. I could never cook with oil. When he had the second heart attack, and we went to this other preventive medicine office that they did the chelation for him, he had a lot of tests done. And of course, science had advanced in all those years. And they told him, well, you need to eat some oil. I mean, you need oil in your body because it's like for many years you haven't had any grease, and you need something. So then is when I started going back and buying my olive oil. So that is why I had the experience with him. So that helped me too. So it's like a series of circumstances gave me, the husband I had, the cancer was in the left breast. Maybe if I could have been in the right breast, I wouldn't have thought anything about radiation because it was farther from the heart. So a series of circumstances happened that took me into this path.